The first thing Marcus Hale noticed when the alien transport crashed was the screaming. Not one voice. For terrified female voices coming from inside a ship that was burning in the middle of an alien desert. Marcus had no idea who they were. He had no idea why their ship had crashed. And he certainly had no idea that walking into that wreckage would legally make him the husband of 4 alien women before sunset. At the time, Marcus had only one thought: get them out alive. The rest of the galaxy could argue about everything else later. The planet Vera 9 had been marked as uninhabited. At least, that was what the Human Exploration Database claimed. Marcus had learned a long time ago that databases could be wrong, especially alien ones. He was 3 hours into a routine geological survey when the sky suddenly turned white. A streak of blue fire crossed the horizon. Marcus looked up from his rover. What the hell? The object hit the desert approximately 2 kilometers away. The impact shook the ground beneath his boots. A column of dust rose into the sky. Marcus grabbed his emergency pack. The sensible thing would have been to call the expedition ship. The sensible thing would have been to stay where he was. Marcus had never been particularly good at doing the sensible thing. He climbed into his rover. 10 minutes later, he reached the crash site. The alien vessel was enormous. It had carved a trench almost half a kilometer long through the sand. Sections of its silver hull were burning. Marcus approached carefully. Then he heard it. A woman screaming. Help! Marcus froze. He had expected machines. Maybe automated drones. Maybe some kind of animal. Not a voice. And definitely not a female voice speaking perfect English. He ran toward the wreckage. A section of the ship's outer hull had collapsed. Behind it was a narrow opening. Marcus crouched. Can you hear me? Yes. The voice was shaking. Please. I'm coming. Marcus pulled a compact cutter from his pack. He sliced through the damaged metal. A hand suddenly reached through the opening. Marcus grabbed it. The woman on the other side gasped. Pull. He did. A figure emerged from the wreckage. Marcus stared. She was unmistakably alien. Tall. Elegant. Her skin had a faint silver blue tone. Her eyes were enormous and violet. Long white hair fell around her shoulders. And despite the smoke and blood covering her face, Marcus could tell she was young, adult, and strikingly beautiful. She looked at him. You're human. Marcus blinked. Yes. Her eyes widened. You came back. Marcus frowned. Back. Before he could ask what she meant, another voice came from inside. Lyra. The alien woman turned. I'm here. Marcus looked into the wreckage. How many of you are there? 4. He sighed. Of course there are. The woman almost smiled. What? Nothing. Marcus went back inside. The second woman was trapped beneath a collapsed support beam. She had dark violet skin and short black hair. Unlike the first woman, she wasn't panicking. She was angry. Don't touch me. Marcus stopped. Fine. I don't need your help. Marcus looked at the beam, then at her. That's unfortunate. What? Because the beam doesn't seem to care what you need. She stared at him. Marcus grabbed the lifting jack from his pack. On 3. I said I don't need. 1. Human. 2. Wait. 3. The beam lifted. She rolled free. Marcus grabbed her arm and pulled her away as part of the ceiling collapsed. The woman stared at him. You risked yourself. Marcus shrugged. You were under a building. That isn't an explanation. It is where I come from. Before she could respond, another explosion shook the ship. The first woman shouted, Marcus! He turned. How do you know my name? She pointed to his identification badge. Oh, he laughed. Right? The second woman looked at him strangely. You laugh during emergencies? Sometimes. That is disturbing. Marcus smiled. You'll get used to it. They found the third woman in the medical compartment. She was unconscious. Marcus carried her out. The fourth was trapped in the cockpit. That one nearly killed him. The cockpit had suffered the worst damage. Marcus crawled through twisted metal while the ship's reactor began counting down. 30 seconds. 29. 28. He reached her. She was pinned beneath the pilot's harness. Her eyes opened. She looked at Marcus. Leave me. No, you don't understand. I understand that the ship is about to explode. If you stay, you die. That's generally how explosions work. She stared at him. You are insane. Marcus cut through the harness. Probably. He lifted her. Hold on. The reactor alarm became a continuous scream. Marcus ran. He jumped through the broken side of the ship. The explosion came seconds later. A wall of heat threw them both across the sand. Marcus landed hard. For several seconds, everything was silent. Then the alien woman slowly opened her eyes. Marcus was lying beside her, bleeding, still conscious. She stared at him. Why? Marcus looked at her. Why what? Why did you come back? He frowned. You were trapped. You could have died. So could you. That is not an answer. Marcus smiled weakly. Maybe humans are just stupid. She stared at him. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. It was the first time any of them had laughed since the crash. 2 hours later, all 4 women were alive. Marcus had built a temporary shelter beside the wreckage. He gave them water, medical supplies, emergency blankets, food. The 4 women sat together. Marcus stood opposite them. Now that the emergency was over, he finally had time to think. 4 alien women, 1 crashed ship, 1 unexplored planet, and no idea who they were. Marcus crossed his arms. So, all 4 looked at him. Who are you? The first woman spoke. My name is Lyra. She pointed to the dark-skinned woman. She is Sarah. The third woman, the one he had carried from the medical bay, was named Naya. The fourth was called Talia. Marcus nodded. Okay. Lyra looked at him. Your name? Marcus. We know. Marcus looked at his badge. Right? Sarah studied him. You are alone? Yes. Where is your army? I don't have an army. The human military? Not here. Your companions? 200 kilometers away. All 4 women exchanged glances. Marcus noticed. What? Lyra looked uncomfortable. We thought humans traveled in groups. Usually. Then why are you alone? Because I was conducting a geological survey. Sarah stared at him. You came to this world alone? Marcus nodded. That is extremely reckless. Marcus smiled. I'm hearing that a lot today. Naya suddenly spoke. You saved all 4 of us. Marcus looked at her. Yes. Why? Because you needed help. She frowned. That is all. Marcus nodded. That is all. The women exchanged another glance. Marcus began noticing something strange. They were looking at him differently. Not with fear. Not exactly with gratitude. Something else. Almost reverence. He ignored it. For the next 3 days, Marcus worked on repairing their emergency beacon. The women helped. Lyra was an engineer. Sarah was a security officer. Naya was a physician. Talia was a navigation specialist. Together, they were extremely capable. Marcus quickly realized they weren't ordinary travelers. These women had been important. Very important. But they never explained why. On the 4th evening, Marcus was repairing the beacon when Lyra approached him. You're hurt. Marcus looked at his arm. It's nothing. You've been saying that for 4 days. I've had worse. Lyra gently took his wrist. Let me see. Marcus allowed her. She cleaned the wound. Her hands were surprisingly gentle. You should let people help you, she whispered. Marcus smiled. That's ironic coming from someone I pulled out of a burning spaceship.
Lyra laughed softly.
Then she became serious. Marcus. Yeah. If we survive this... She hesitated. What? Would you leave us? Marcus looked at her. No, her eyes widened. You wouldn't. Not until I know you're safe. Lyra looked down. You really are strange. Everyone keeps telling me that. She smiled. Then she did something Marcus didn't expect. She touched his cheek. Thank you. Marcus froze. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Lyra stepped away. That night, Marcus noticed something. The 4 women had started sleeping closer to his shelter. Not inside, just nearby. Almost as if being close to him made them feel safe. He thought it was because of the crash. He was wrong. On the 7th day, the beacon finally activated. A transmission burst into the sky. Marcus smiled. Finally. Lyra went pale. Marcus noticed. What? She didn't answer. Sarah stood immediately. Nobody should have activated that. Marcus frowned. Why? Talia looked toward the horizon. Because now they know where we are. Who? Naya whispered. Our people. Marcus smiled. That's good, right? Nobody answered. The silence told him everything. Marcus slowly lowered the tool in his hand. What aren't you telling me? Lyra looked at him. We are not ordinary citizens. I figured that out. We are the 4 daughters of the Varian royal bloodline. Marcus stared. Your royalty? Yes. All 4 of you? Yes. Marcus rubbed his forehead. Okay.
Sera Froned.
That's all you have to say? What am I supposed to say? You rescued 4 royal heirs. Marcus looked at them. I didn't know. That doesn't matter. Why? Because now our enemies know you protected us. Marcus's expression hardened. How long? Lyra looked toward the sky. 20 minutes. Until what? Until they arrive. Marcus stood. Then we need to move. Sarah shook her head. No, Marcus looked at her. What? You don't understand. Explain.
Sera stepped closer.
Our people have a law. Marcus waited. Lyra looked embarrassed. What law?
Sera en swerd.
Any outsider who saves a member of the royal bloodline from certain death becomes their sworn life bond. Marcus frowned. Okay. Talia whispered. There is more. How much more? Lyra closed her eyes. The life bond is legally recognized as marriage. Marcus stared at them. Silence. Then he laughed. All 4 women looked horrified. You're serious? Yes. Marcus pointed at himself. You're telling me that because I pulled you out of a burning ship? He pointed at all 4. I'm married to you?
Lyra visperet, legalli.
Marcus looked toward the sky, then back at the 4 women, then at the emergency beacon, then at the rapidly approaching lights appearing over the horizon. You know what? He sighed. This day was going so well. The 4 women stared at him. Marcus picked up his rifle. Come on.
Sera blankt.
Where are we going? Somewhere your laws can't reach us. Lyra looked at him. And if they already consider you our husband? Marcus started walking. Then I guess they just made a very serious mistake. Behind him, the 4 royal women followed. And none of them noticed the faint smiles appearing on their faces. Because for the first time since the crash, they weren't afraid of what was coming. They were standing behind a human who had rescued them without knowing their names, a human who had never asked for their status, a human who had treated 4 alien princesses exactly the same way he would have treated anyone else, like people. And somewhere beyond the desert horizon, an entire alien civilization was coming to claim its 4 princesses, and the human they now legally considered their husband. But they had no idea what humanity did when someone came for the people it had chosen to protect. The lights appeared over the horizon. Hundreds of them. Marcus stood at the edge of the desert settlement, staring upward as alien warships emerged from the clouds. Behind him stood Lyra, Sarah, Naya, and Talia, 4 royal daughters, 4 women who had crashed onto an unknown planet, 4 women Marcus had rescued without knowing who they were, and apparently 4 women who were now legally married to him. Marcus lowered his rifle. That's a lot of ships. Sarah stepped beside him. 37. Marcus looked at her. You counted them? Yes. Of course you did.
Lyra lalket closer.
Marcus. He looked at her. You don't have to do this. Do what? Protect us. Marcus smiled. You're going to have to be more specific. You know what I mean. She looked toward the approaching fleet. Our father will send the royal guard. Good. They may arrest you. Less good. They may execute you. Marcus turned toward her. That seems unnecessarily rude. Lyra almost smiled, but her eyes were filled with fear. Marcus, listen to me. He became serious. You're my friend. She froze. Friend. Yes. He looked at all four women. You trusted me when you were terrified. He pointed toward the ships. Whatever happens next, I'm not handing you over to people who might hurt you. Sarah stared at him. You don't even know what we did. I know what you didn't do. What? You didn't leave each other behind. The four women went silent. Marcus looked at them. That's enough for me. The first ship landed. The doors opened. Hundreds of armored soldiers emerged. Their armor was black and silver. At their center walked an enormous alien man wearing a golden crown. Lyra's face changed. Father. Marcus looked at him. That your dad? Yes. Marcus whispered. Okay. The king approached. His eyes moved from his daughters to Marcus, then back to his daughters. Finally, his gaze stopped on Marcus. You. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Me? You are the human. That's generally how people describe me. The king didn't smile. You rescued my daughters. Yes. You protected them. Yes. You activated their emergency beacon. Yes. You brought them food. Yes. You repaired their ship. Mostly. The king stared at him, then asked the question Marcus had been dreading. Do you understand what you have done? Marcus looked at the four women. I saved four people. The king shook his head. No, his voice echoed across the desert. You saved the four heirs to the Varian throne. Marcus shrugged. I didn't know. That makes it worse. Why? Because you did not save them for political advantage. Marcus frowned. Was I supposed to? No, the king stepped closer. That is precisely why you are dangerous. Marcus almost laughed. I'm dangerous because I helped someone? The king stared into his eyes. You have demonstrated the most dangerous quality in our civilization. What quality? Honor without expectation of reward. Marcus didn't know what to say. Behind him, Lyra smiled. The royal soldiers surrounded the group. Marcus noticed something. None of the four women stepped away from him. Instead, they moved closer. The king noticed too. His expression changed.
Lyra.
Yes, father? Come here. She didn't move.
Lyra.
She shook her head. No, the entire royal guard became tense. The king looked at Sarah. You. Sarah also remained beside Marcus. Then Naya. Then Talia. All four refused. The king stared at his daughters. Why? Lyra looked at Marcus. Then at her father. Because he treated us like people. The king said nothing. He didn't know we were royal. Sarah continued. He didn't care. Naya added. He risked his life for us. Talia looked at Marcus. He never once asked what we could give him. The king slowly looked at Marcus. You did all of this without knowing who they were. Yes. Why? Marcus thought about it, then gave the simplest answer. Because they needed help. The king closed his eyes. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he turned toward the royal guard. Lower your weapons. Every soldier obeyed. Marcus relaxed slightly. Then the king said, Prepare the bond ceremony. Marcus's head snapped toward him. Wait. The king looked at him. What is a bond ceremony? The king answered calmly. The legal recognition of your marriage. Marcus stared. Again with the marriage. Sarah whispered. You can't refuse. Marcus looked at her. Why not? She looked embarrassed. Because the life bond was activated when you saved us. Can it be cancelled?
No, divorced.
All four women looked away. Marcus sighed. Of course. The ceremony took place inside the royal palace. Marcus had never seen anything like it. The palace was carved into the side of a massive crystal mountain. Thousands of alien citizens filled the ceremonial hall. Nobles, scientists, warriors, merchants, workers. Everyone had come to see the human who had somehow become connected to the four royal heirs. Marcus stood in the center. The four women stood beside him. Lyra wore a silver ceremonial dress. Sarah wore dark blue. Naya wore white. Talia wore deep violet. They looked nothing like the frightened survivors he'd pulled from a burning ship. They looked like royalty. But Marcus noticed something. They were still nervous. He leaned toward them. "Are you okay?"
Lyra nodded.
"Yes."
Sarah whispered, "No Naya looked."
Talia smiled. Marcus shook his head. "Good." The ceremony began. The king raised his hand. Under ancient Varian law, a life saved through deliberate sacrifice establishes a bond between rescuer and survivor. Marcus looked around. "That's very specific." The king continued. "The bond becomes permanent when the survivor voluntarily recognizes the rescuer as family." Marcus looked at the four women. The king turned to them. "Do you recognize him?" Lyra stepped forward. "Yes." Sarah stepped forward. "Yes." Naya. "Yes." Talia. "Yes." The king looked at Marcus. "And you?" Marcus stared at the four women. He remembered the burning ship. Lyra's hand reaching through the wreckage. Sarah trapped beneath the beam. Naya unconscious. Talia telling him to leave her behind. He remembered carrying them, protecting them, laughing with them, learning who they really were. And something became clear. The law might have been strange, but what had formed between them wasn't. These women had become his family. Marcus stepped forward. Yes. The hall erupted. The ceremony should have been the end. Instead, it was the beginning. Because the moment Marcus became legally recognized as the four women's bondmate, every enemy of the Varian Empire learned something terrifying. The four royal heirs had a human protector. And humanity had a reason to care about Vera. 3 days later, the first attack came. A hostile fleet entered the system. Marcus was aboard the royal palace when alarms began. Sarah ran into the command chamber. Enemy fleet. How many? Over 200 ships. Marcus looked at the king. Your military? 20 ships. Marcus stared. That's not enough. No. Then evacuate the civilians. The king looked at him. And the palace? Marcus shook his head. Forget the palace. Lyra stepped forward. What are you planning? Marcus looked at the tactical display. I don't know yet.
Sarah frowned.
You're supposed to be the brilliant human. I never claimed that. You've survived impossible situations. Mostly by accident. Talia studied the map. Marcus. What? The enemy fleet is following a standard formation. He looked at her. Explain. They expect us to defend the capital. Marcus stared at the map, then smiled. That's because they don't know humans.
Sarah smiled.
I was wondering when you'd say that. Marcus pointed toward the navigation routes. We don't defend the capital. The king frowned. Then what do we defend? Marcus looked at the four women. Everything they think is unimportant. The battle lasted 9 hours. The human expedition ship finally arrived. Only one ship, the Horizon. One human vessel against hundreds of alien warships. The enemy laughed. Then Marcus gave the order. The Horizon didn't attack the enemy fleet. It disappeared. The enemy commanders were confused. Where had it gone? Then alarms began screaming across their fleet. Human drones emerged from the planet's upper atmosphere. Hundreds, then thousands. They didn't fire weapons. They hacked navigation systems, disabled engines,
Redirected missile.
locked weapons. The enemy fleet began destroying itself. The Varian soldiers stared in disbelief. Marcus stood on the command deck. Humanity has never been the strongest species in the galaxy. The king looked at him. Then how did you do this? Marcus smiled. We learned to survive. The enemy fleet collapsed. The remaining ships surrendered. The battle was over. But Marcus wasn't celebrating. He looked toward the planet below. Thousands of civilians were safe. The 4 women were alive. That was enough. Months passed. The Varian Empire changed. The old law of caste began disappearing. Workers were given access to education. Scientists from lower castes were promoted. Children were allowed to choose their professions. And the story of the human who rescued 4 royal women spread across the galaxy. But the most surprising part wasn't the marriage. It wasn't the battle. It wasn't even the political transformation. It was what happened between Marcus and the 4 women. They became a family. Not because some ancient law forced them together. Because they chose each other. Lyra became the royal ambassador to Earth. Sarah became commander of the Varian Defense Forces. Naya established hospitals across 3 worlds. Talia became one of the greatest navigators in known space. And Marcus? He became something nobody expected. He became the first human advisor to the Varian throne. One evening, Marcus stood on a balcony overlooking the capital. Lyra joined him. "You're thinking again. Dangerous habit." She smiled. "You regret it?" "Regret what?" "Saving us." Marcus looked at her. "No. Not even a little?" He smiled. "Maybe the paperwork."
Lyra laughed.
Then Sarah arrived. "You 2 are late." Marcus turned. "For what?" "The family dinner." Naya appeared behind her. "You promised." Talia was already walking ahead. Marcus sighed. "For wives."
Lyra similait.
"For wives. For different personalities."
Sera nodded.
"Correct. For different opinions." Naya smiled. "Also correct." Marcus looked toward the stars. "And somehow I survived." Talia turned around. "You're still alive because we decided to keep you." Marcus laughed. "Is that so?" "Yes." Lyra reached for his hand. "We rescued you too." Marcus looked at her. "What?" She smiled. "You rescued our bodies."
Sera stepped closer.
"We rescued your heart." Naya added. "And Talia rescued your terrible navigation skills." Talia nodded seriously. "That was a humanitarian mission." Marcus laughed. For the first time, he understood. He hadn't simply rescued 4 alien women. They had rescued something inside him. Something he hadn't realized was missing. A home. Family. A reason to look beyond the next mission. The galaxy would remember the story as the day a human accidentally became the husband of 4 alien princesses. But Marcus remembered it differently. He remembered 4 frightened women inside a burning ship. He remembered 4 hands reaching toward him. And he remembered the choice he made before he knew who they were. He helped them. Not because they were princesses. Not because they were beautiful. Not because they could give him power. He helped them because they were people. And perhaps that was the most human thing of all. The Varians had spent centuries believing strength meant domination. The humans taught them something different. Sometimes strength meant carrying someone when they couldn't walk. Sometimes courage meant standing between danger and people who couldn't protect themselves. And sometimes, the greatest reward wasn't a crown. It was coming home to 4 people who were waiting for you. Marcus looked at the 4 women. "Ready?"
Lyra similait.
"Yes."
Sera nodded.
Naya laughed. Talia rolled her eyes. Finally, Marcus started walking. Behind him came 4 alien women who had once been strangers. Now they were family. And above them, the stars continued burning. Billions of worlds. Billions of stories. And somewhere among them, humanity's reputation was changing. Not because humans had conquered the galaxy. Not because humans possessed the strongest weapons. But because when 4 alien women needed help, one human stopped everything to save them. And the galaxy would never forget it. Redheart OUTRO/CTA if you enjoyed this emotional HFY story. Subscribe for more cinematic human versus alien adventures, unexpected romance, and stories where humanity proves that its greatest strength isn't always its weapons. Sometimes, it's simply refusing to leave someone behind. And if you were Marcus, would you accept the 4 alien women as your family? Let me know in the comments. Until the next story, stay curious, stay human, and keep looking toward the stars. Rocket,